Do you want to grow your B2B business on a small budget? Hey, I'm Sam Dunning, co-owner over at webchoiceuk.com and host of the Top 100 Marketing Podcast, Business Growth Show. And if you haven't yet, check out my weekly email where I'm sharing actionable website and marketing tips, useful podcasts, free goodies, resources, and much more each and every Monday so you can kick off your week with a bang. Why not give it a trial over at businessgrowth.email? All right, so I'm going to share some of my top tips when you're early on in a B2B business, when you haven't got much cash, you haven't got much budget or resources, on how you can scale up and drive your first few customers and start bringing in revenue pretty quickly. This is taken from my recent podcast with We Have a Meeting, guys. Enjoy. Let's jump in. So let's say if you are a startup, then you're perhaps strapped for cash, I'd imagine. So you're limited on what you can do. So marketing wise, I mean, LinkedIn's almost a no-brainer. It's the biggest B2B network there is. You guys use it, I use it. It's one of the fastest ways that you can start conversations in terms of marketing perspective if you're not using phone, if you're not using another tool. So yeah, it's a great way to connect to prospects, start conversations, put out your own content, build your personal brand. And yeah, so I mean, that's a no-brainer because it's free to use. The organic reach on LinkedIn is still high, so you can literally put out posts over time, build yourself as an authority, as a credible person, as the go-to person for your industry. So let's say you sell software, maybe you sell SaaS software, you can over time share educational, helpful, useful tips around what you do and position yourself as someone that knows what they're talking about. So in a few months' time, you might start to attract inbound inquiries and make referrals, make connections, all that good stuff. But probably my thoughts on this are probably quite controversial to most, because if I didn't have much cash, I'd probably do what I did when I was literally at this point. So when I was at a startup marketing company before WebChoice, that literally had almost next to nothing on in terms of budget spend, we knew we had to do a few things. So I knew LinkedIn was decent then, so I kind of started leveraging that, putting out content there. We knew we needed a kind of half decent website that would kind of clearly show what we do, how we helped, share the services we offered, share some social proof testimonials and make it easy for people to get in touch with us. We also knew that long-term SEO was going to help us because we had a background in digital. I mean, that long-term, if 6-12 months or so, if we started doing some SEO, at the time we didn't do it in-house, we just employed a fairly cheap company to do it for us. We knew that it would pay off dividends. So we basically did those three things. Plus, we had no book of business right now. So what I did was I leveraged my existing network. So any old clients, prospects from past companies I'd worked at, called them straight away and said, look, I've moved over. This is what we're doing. Is it worth a conversation? Or do you know anyone that can kind of help with what we do? And then I cold called. So I, in this case, this was like a marketing agency I worked for. So cold called kind of agencies that could potentially give us white label work or that could partner with us. So it wasn't a really hard cold call situation. It was more like, look, this is what we do. You do something similar. Is there any opportunity for us to kind of pass work each other's way? And this was old school. So this was back when everything was face to face. So I was setting meetings up in London, going up and see them, having conversations. A lot of them were a waste of time, but a few of them paid off because I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't really have any sales training, but still managed to generate some business. So that was, if you are really strapped for cash and you're a bootstrap startup and you're B2B, using LinkedIn properly, probably teaching yourself how to sell, whether that's reading sales training books or getting on podcasts, listening to podcasts like these, video training, etc., sorting yourself out a decent website, looking at long-term things, whether that's SEO, and actually hitting the phones, generating business and working your existing network before you do any of this, because that's going to tap into some clients. And then longer term, there's quite a lot of, because it depends what resources you've got. But yeah, longer term things like setting up a podcast or setting up a video series just makes sense because you can literally invite idle clients onto the show, build up relationships. You also create content that you can then share on social. You can share it on YouTube, on the podcast channels. And again, you can build up yourself as an authority in what you do. So if you're putting out educational content that's geared towards your ideal clients, you're going to position yourself as someone who knows their shit and eventually you're gonna attract inquiries, or you're gonna build trust with people that were connected to you that now realize that you can actually help them. So that would be some of my first ports of call.
And there you have it. I hope you found this episode of use. As always, if you're on the audio podcast, a quick rating is very much appreciated. Or if you're tuning on YouTube, a quick subscribe is always appreciated. And with that, I shall catch you on the next episode. Cheers.